Hi, I'm Jean Schumacher, founder of Simply Plant Based, where I have programs to help you to change your health destiny, including the Pregnancy Advantage, where Dr. Deborah Shapiro and she's an OBGYN, and we help women get their bodies pregnant ready, especially if you're dealing with infertility issues. I also have Plant Based Academy, where I provide help, support, guidance, and resources to help you switch to a plant-based lifestyle. And I have the privilege today of interviewing Bobbi Giudicelli, who is written a book and has started her own food company. So, Bobbi, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me here today.
Jean, what a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, okay, so let's start off. What made you go plant-based? Tell us your story.
Whoa. Okay. So I grew up in the 60s and grew up in what you would call a traditional family when it came to food. We were anything but traditional in a lot of other ways, but basically, food as a result of my childhood, which was not so happy, was my go to drug. It was my comfort. It was my soothing. It was my numbing drug. It was all of those things. And of course, when I became a teenager and you have all the societal pressures of being thin, of being attractive, of all of those things that we women have to deal with, I decided that food could no longer be that for me and actually developed horrendous eating disorders. So I've gone through being a food addict to severe eating disorders to 15, 16 years later, just disordered eating. Now I'm a mom of three myself, and my eating habits are terrible. Fast forward another 15 years, and my sister dies very young with cancer. And I was her primary caretaker. Shortly after that, my father, who was very active and really very vital his whole life, struggled with both physical incapacity as well as severe progressive dementia for the last 14 years of his life. And I became a caretaker for him. At the same time, my fatigue, my body pain, my everything was so severe that I was really struggling with health issues. And, I had been active my whole life, and I always thought that's healthy. And as long as I could control my eating and eat the things that we are told are healthy, I would be okay. And finally, I realized in my late 50s that that was not the case. And I pulled out all the stops and decided I am going to do my own research because there was not a lot of support. There wasn't a lot of support for eating disorders. Disordered eating wasn't even a term. And now when I decide, I'm smarter than this, I have to stop kidding myself. I started my own journey, and my journey included first learning everything that I could learn about what I eat, how it affects me, how to not be driven by all the food addiction that resurfaced after I was no longer anorexic. Kind of evolved from there. At the end of my journey, or not the end, because certainly I'm not at the end of my journey, but my journey led me to a whole food plant-based diet. And here I am at 67, and I feel better than I felt when I was 40 years old.
Oh, right. I mean, the energy, the vibrancy. Oh my gosh, it's huge. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. Well, how long did it take you to convert? Was it like gradual, or you're like, today's the day?
No, it was gradual because it was a learning process. Actually, the health challenge that I identify that drove me there was the chronic fatigue, the chronic inflammation, the digestive issues, all of that. But the truth is, I did have a health scare and event in my life that I was hospitalized off and on for 3 months. And I didn't eat for most of that time. I just didn't eat. I had no appetite. I was really, really in bad shape. My organs were shutting down. It was a fluke thing, and it was horrible. And so the journey started with educating myself as soon as I started to get my life back from that illness. So it started with education. So I did it in a step-by-step process. It was, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. Like I had done as a disordered eater, I had tried every diet in known to man, and I knew diets don't work. I mean, I knew that intellectually, I knew it. I just knew it. And so this was going to be different than a diet. It wasn't going to be, oh, now I am plant-based. That is my new diet. No, this was learn what I'm doing to myself. And I tell the story in my book, and the story started with diet soda for me. I was a horrible diet soda addict. I had more aspartame and had more of that in my body than I think I had blood in my body. So that was the first thing I gave up. I really looked at, I had always said that was my only bad thing that I ever ate, at that point in my life. Well, surely that's not true. But that was pretty bad. And, I was doing 6, 7, 8 cans of diet soda a day. That was not unusual. So first was to get rid of that. And as I got rid of that, I noticed change, and I went, okay, well, what else? And then it progressed. And I have to say, the final animal products that I gave up were eggs, and I think just eggs and fish. Eggs and fish. Everything else I had cleaned up. No processed food, no artificial sweeteners, very little, like to none, no sugar in my life. Dairy was out, all of those things. And so it was gradual. And I would say it was over a 4-year period. It's really hard, which means now I've been 100% plant-based for 6, 7 years. But I don't have, it's really interesting because I don't have oh, this is the anniversary of. I can only count back to say, oh yeah, I was doing that year. And I do remember that I was plant-based then. And yeah, so it was a gradual, it was a learning, it was self-taught. It was using a lot of resources out there that I share very openly in my book. It was listening to a lot of podcasts, reading a lot of books. It was a journey, and I was fine to do it that way. And what I found, which so excited me, is when I did it that way, by eliminating one thing at a time, I didn't crave it. I didn't feel deprived. It was, I talk to people all the time who say, I can't give up cheese, chocolate, whatever it is, they fill in the blank of what they can't give up. And that would have been me 15 years ago. Oh, I can't give that up. And the truth is, you don't feel deprived. Once you do it for 3, 4, 5 weeks, you're done. It doesn't look good.
Yeah. And it doesn't taste good. And, okay, chocolate, I'm still going to be chocolate, but.
Yeah, exactly. Chocolate's a great example, because chocolate was my go-to, but it had to be milk chocolate, and it was chocolate in anything. It was chocolate cake, chocolate ice cream, chocolate. Just give me chocolate. Give me a chocolate bar. Don't ruin it by putting any nuts in it. Just give me a chocolate bar and milk chocolate. And now I couldn't eat milk chocolate if you gave it to me, but I do eat dark chocolate. I make my own with vegan, high quality, 70% chocolate, and I put all kinds of nuts and seeds in it. And that's, I call it my treat, but it's not even a treat. That's something I eat up a small piece of once a week, and I'm completely satisfied.
Right.
And whoever thought, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the cheese, like, oh my gosh, if I eat cheese, like I'll get sick. I will get sick.
Yes.
Without question. I mean, how did you handle cravings in the beginning?
I mean, I had handled cravings all my life by giving into them. And yelling at myself, because why aren't I stronger? Why don't I have more willpower? Why don't I whatever? And I will tell you in retrospect, and writing the book was such great therapy, because you asked me that question now. I can answer it because I reflected on it when I wrote the book. I could not have answered it 2, 3 years ago, because to me, I didn't have any, but you can't say that. That's not true. During that first 4 or 5 weeks, you give something up. Yes, every now and again, you're going to crave it. Or if you're going to a party, you don't want to not be the one who's not eating what everyone else is eating, or, things like that. And I can answer it 2 ways. The tactical way is I always had something else to eat. So, and I write this in my book, the importance of, I'm craving sugar now. It's after dinner, I'm craving sugar. well, okay, I can go for the chocolate that I used to go for habitually or giving into the crave, or I can eat fruit. Oh, okay, I'll eat fruit. And suddenly that just was complementary to everything else that was happening in my mouth, on my taste buds, on everything else. Fruit is clean. It tastes clean. It feels good. It doesn't make you feel bad 2 hours later or the next morning. It helps your digestion. It's all these wonderful things. Whereas the chocolate, eating in the quantity that we used to eat it or giving into the craving every day, which only exaggerates the craving, is none of those things. You feel terrible an hour later. It's not clean in your mouth. It's still something processed that does something to your taste buds. It doesn't help your digestion. It doesn't help your cholesterol. It doesn't help any of those things. It became habitual to say, oh, okay, fruit after dinner. And then it became, I don't really have the cravings anymore. Every now and again now, I still crave sweet and I go for fruit. And I have the choice to eat the dark chocolate. It's not my choice. It's not my first choice. My first choice is, if I'm feeling that way, I go to fruit. And oh, guess what? My body works well.
Oh, that is just so awesome. Well, you've written a book called Freedom from a Toxic Relationship with Food. How did this come about, and how is this different from other books?
So how it came about is, I'm not new to being an author. I wrote a book 20 years ago, and when I was working more in a corporate, I've worked for myself forever. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I was working in a different industry, and I wrote a book then. That book I wrote to prove to myself I could write a book. And I'm very proud of that book from 20 years ago. However, it took me 2.5 years to write it. So fast forward to last year, I have always lived with this promise I made to myself. And the promise was, if I ever am cured of my eating disorders, I mean, this is back in the day when I was at the height of and miserable from eating disorders. And I had made myself a promise that if I am cured, and it was an if then, I did not believe I ever would be. I always believed I'd be a recovering alcoholic type of mentality. If I ever am cured, I am going to pay it forward. I don't know how, but I will find a way. And so this book has been brewing in me, but I knew I also own a business that we can talk about, but I knew I didn't have 2.5 years to write a book. And it was very frustrating, and the stars aligned, and I attended a webinar, and the woman who was presenting at this webinar was a book coach. And she said, if you follow my process, you will get a book written and published in 90 days. And I just went, wait a minute. I'm a published author. It took me 2.5 years. I want to challenge you. So after the webinar, she's actually in England. She's British. And after the webinar, I contacted her. I reached out to her and I said, come on now. I've written a book. How am I going to do it in 90 days? And we talked for a little while, and she's a book coach. She's a writing coach. She also has a publishing company. So there's this whole package. If you work with her, that, she does she has the editors on staff, she has the typesetters, she has all those people on staff, and she has a process of how to get the manuscript first draft out in 6 weeks. I went with her almost as I dare you, there's no way. And I asked her how much time I would need to commit, and we talked about that. And I said, okay, let's do it. And so a plug for her. She's amazing. She will only work with people in the vegan community, but people are free to reach out to me, and I will refer them to her if they do have an interest in writing a book. But so that was the whole thing about the book came about because this is one of my ways to pay it forward. How is it different? That's really important to me. I wasn't just interested in writing another book about the merits of being plant-based. I just wasn't. There's so many books out there. There are cookbooks that tell you how to prepare your food. There are books that give you all the scientific information. I read lots of them in my own journey. show you why it's better and healthier for all of us to be plant-based. There are all kinds of books. There are books that will even tell you, eat this, this, and this. They'll design your menu for you almost like another diet. And I wasn't interested in one of those. So because my purpose was to pay it forward, what I wanted to do was write a book that would give the emotional support, the actual emotional support and comfort, as if I am holding your hand if this is the journey you want to go through. So we talk about the cravings in the book, and I talk about how diets are horrible and why, and dieting as a verb is really a really bad thing to do, and why we've always blamed ourselves for not having enough willpower. That's why diets don't work. That's why we're not happy with our weight. That's why we're not happy with our health. And that's not the case. There's something else going on. And a lot of the something else going on is people are putting stuff in our food that makes us, that sabotages us on our journey. So this book is the hand-holding emotional support that anybody who has ever lived through getting up in the morning and feeling miserable, either because your energy is terrible, or you're bloated, or you have aches and pains, or your clothes don't fit, or you have to go to a party that you don't want to go to. All of those things that work against us, this is the book that was written to tell you this is all normal. Let me help you not have a bad experience through all of this and come out the other side.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Well, you also started a company called Read the Ingredients, which, first of all, I got to just say, I love the name of your company, because I spend a lot of time teaching people how to read nutrition labels, and I love reading yours. So tell us about, how did this start, and what was the big thing to start this company?
Read the Ingredients is a food company. Every product that we'll ever put on the market is going to be void of added sugar. It's going to be void of preservatives, stabilizers, chemicals. Our goal is, when we say read the ingredients, we want you to be able to read the ingredient panel, not just along with the nutritionals, but read the ingredient panel and know that you would eat anything on that panel by itself. We don't put maltodextrin. Does anybody know what that is? And when's the last time you put that on your grocery list? I had created these recipes when I was on my journey and I needed to start traveling. And, I was eating whole food, plant-based, and super clean. And guess what? You can't travel and eat that way. There are no convenient foods out there in a package that you can grab and go that are going to sustain you, that are going to feed you, that are going to have the balance of macronutrients. Those foods don't exist. And I know that because after I started my journey in eating this way, I went through Whole Foods Market and any other healthy store, and I tried to find something that would be, all the macros I'm looking for, the high protein, the high fiber, healthy carbs and the healthy fats, and all of that. And fiber, by the way, fiber. Most things that are processed, the fiber is gone. It's out of there. I went looking for that and it didn't exist. And I needed to start traveling from West Coast to East Coast. And it wasn't going to happen, with the way I was eating. So I created a couple different recipes of those kinds of foods that you can package and take with you. So as I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. At the time, I was running a company. It was the first company that I had done with my son as my partner, my oldest son. He's a great business partner. And we looked at each other and went, we've shared these, we call them super loaves now. We've shared these super loaves with people and they love them and they want to find where to get them. Should we do this as a business? And so we created Read the Ingredients. We have 2 different products and we have 4 flavors in the super loaves. One of our products we've recently pulled because we're going to slightly reformulate and repackage it. But we have the super loaves, and the super loaves are baked in the shape of a mini loaf. They're baked and they're really dense, like think of a very dense banana bread, only we don't add sugar and we don't have unhealthy fats in there, and we don't have the crap that you have in a normal commercial banana bread. And it's a full breakfast, calorically, nutritionally, and decided to bring that to market.
I got one right here, and I just have to read the ingredients on this. Bananas, apples, rolled oats, quinoa, hemp protein powder, dark chocolate, that is almond butter, walnuts, cocoa powder, and sea salt.
That's it.
That's it. This is for the chocolate chip super loaf.
Of those ingredients are organic, and we are non-GMO certified. We don't have the certified label on there yet because we just finally went through the certification process, but we are non-GMO certified.
That's even better.
Yes.
Another step up the ladder. Just amazing. I mean, and I have to tell you, your 4 flavors are just incredible. I've tried them all, and they're delicious. And they are a great place to have, like I was just traveling the other day, and there's nothing, I mean, like the airports are like food deserts,
Oh
you know,
my
in
God.
many places. So this was perfect to have in my purse, you know, and to be able to eat this, you know, and pull this out when they're coming down the aisle with the sodas and the pretzels and, you know, and all the garbage. I'm pulling this out and I'm eating healthy foods.
Yes.
So thank you for doing this. I mean, honestly. Woof.
No, it is it, and here's been our challenge. And honestly, of every industry I've ever started a company in, this has been the most complex, and I'll tell you why. Because we are swimming upstream fighting against the big companies. So everybody puts on their packaging healthy for you, high fiber, this, that, and the other, gluten-free, which we are also gluten-free because I'm gluten intolerant. You know, all of those labels get put on the front of a package, and then people turn them over and read them and don't even bother to notice what kind of crap is in there. But the real challenge for us has been that people like you and me have stopped looking for healthy packaged food to eat. And when you asked me earlier, what did I do about the cravings? The answer was to find the right substitute. Well, that's the whole reason I created Read the Ingredients recipes, because this is what I eat for breakfast every single day since I created the recipes, whether I'm traveling or I am not. This is my breakfast because it doesn't have the added sugar. You don't get the sugar spikes. It is going to hold the 305 to 375 calories, depending what flavor, will hold you what would normally be a 600-calorie breakfast, because you're not getting sugar spikes. You're not craving something as a result of having eaten this. And, you know, I accomplished all that, but the challenge is that we don't look for packaged food anymore. So hello, everybody who is plant-based, whole food and plant-based and eating super clean. There is now a packaged food that you can conveniently take anywhere or conveniently eat at home before you get out the door in the morning, or for lunch. Take it with you, or take it to the gym for your after workout. And because it didn't exist, and there's thousands of bars out there, I challenge anybody to find one as good tasting or as good for you or as clean as Read the Ingredients super loaves.
So what was the most difficult obstacle you faced going plant-based?
My husband. Yeah. I'm a pro change person. I think change is a good thing. I love change. I'm stimulated by change. I embrace change. I feel like I'm learning with change and I'm growing with change. My husband is very opposite. My husband is, that's the way it was always done, so that's the way he's going to do it. And food in particular, because food was such a big, he was very typical of the meaning of food being nurturing and, you know, a way to show love and all of that. So as I was making changes, he was digging in his heels. And to this day, he still is not changing the way he eats. Now, I do spend a lot of time in the book talking about that, because a lot of people, that's their barrier. I don't want to say excuse. It really sounds like a judgmental word, but it is the excuse or reason that we say we can't make changes because then I'm going to eat dinner with my husband, and how do I do that? Or my children need to have X, Y, and Z. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. You can do anything you want to do, But my husband and I have worked out, and it wasn't always like this, a huge mutual respect for each other, for the journey that each of us is on. I will tell you one advantage uh, that it brought for us. So my husband did we raised three boys together, and he did all of the cooking and all of the grocery shopping, because back in the day when I was a mess around food, I hated to go near it. I didn't want to. And he loved to cook, and he loved to go grocery shopping. And to this day, he does 90% of the grocery shopping. But now he cooks his meal. And I, who had never stepped foot in the kitchen before my journey, I cook the same meal, only my version of it. So we might have tacos, or we might have pasta, and he'll do his version and I'll do mine. And so on with the tacos, or with what's another meal? I can't even remember off the top of my head, but we're completely separate. You would look at the table, where we sit down to eat, and you would go, oh, okay, they're similar meals. They're really not. There's nothing similar, but we decide together, what are we having for dinner tonight? And I wouldn't touch his tacos and he wouldn't touch mine. But it happens, I use that example because it happens to be one of my favorites. I have the healthiest, cleanest tortillas you would ever find. Mushrooms are the main thing in my tacos, and I'm in heaven. And cabbage and vegetables and, hot peppers. And I mean, I'm in heaven. I could drool thinking about it. And he puts, I don't even want to say, because it's stuff I would never eat. But we're both having tacos for dinner, and that gives us another 20-30 minutes that we spend together in the day. That's a positive experience. So yeah, that was something really positive that came out of it. And bless his heart, he's still willing to do the grocery shopping and take my list with him and shop for me. Yeah.
All right, you got to keep her there.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, it shows what you can do if you're willing to compromise and to be able to make it work, because, I'm very blessed. My husband's on board. He really didn't have a choice, because I do the cookings and he does the eating. So I put food in front of him and he eats it. And so, I'm blessed that way, that he's embraced this journey. So it's been a win-win for both of us, because I've got him now in the kitchen cooking. He actually made baked beans today. So one of our favorites. So what are three things someone can do to help start this journey?
In the book, I do ask you to do exercises at the end of every chapter relevant to what we're talking about in the chapter. And I think getting in tune to what's important to you, I think you need a constant, along that same realm, you need a constant reminder of, why did you even start a journey like this? This goes along with everything I say. You need to think you're important enough. You really need to go, how many more days do I want to dread clothes shopping? If it's a weight issue that you're dealing with, am I okay not being able to play with my grandchildren? I mean, I'm 67, I have 6.5 grandchildren, and I expect to ski with every single one of them. And one of my kids is still having more kids after this latest one is born. So, I need to be skiing for a lot of years to come. And those are the promises I made to myself. I'm going to be that kind of parent, that kind of grandparent. And this is the only way I'm going to be able to do it for another, 5, 10, 15 years. I started riding horses in my late 50s, and right around the same time that I started this journey. And I bred my mare last year, and I look at her sometimes and I go, I'm going to be 70 before I put a saddle on her back. Like, am I going to be able to really ride her? She's a feisty little thing. And the answer is, of course I am, because I'm committed to that. I'm committed to this lifestyle. I've never felt better. And am I worth it? Yes, I am. And that's what I think people need to do. They need to ask themselves the question, am I worth it? Who is more important than you and your health? You can't be good for anybody if you don't have your health and you're not being true to yourself. And, so those are not tangible things. You asked me 3 things. They're not tangible things. So I'll give you one tangible though. Surround yourself only with the food that is okay to eat. Don't give yourself reasons and excuses. Don't leave the house for 3 days knowing you're going to be where all they have is McDonald's and go without food and go without planning. So the real tangible thing is be conscious and plan. Overeat all you want, but overeat the wrong foods until you get to where you're leveled out and you wouldn't even imagine that eating any other way. I mean, that is, I think, the most tangible, most important. Just don't compromise in the beginning. You know, if you want to, whatever your thing is that you're afraid of giving up, 3 months from now, you're going to want it maybe once in a while, maybe not. If it's highly processed, you probably will not want it at all. But give yourself that first month, 2 months, 3 months with all of these changes. And then you will just never look back, but don't give yourself a reason to compromise.
That is just so awesome. Love that. And I agree, people around me in my program, the Plant-Based Academy, will hear me say in our coaching sessions, failure to plan is a plan for failure, right? And I'm always prepared in terms of food when I'm traveling, when I'm going. I plan ahead because I want to be successful.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
pretty straightforward. So
Yeah.
congratulations on the book. Congratulations on setting up such an amazing company. So kudos to you for doing this and following your heart. So,
Jean, the one thing I do want to say is I really encourage anybody who is struggling to get the book. I don't care about you getting the book as far as financial reasons or whatever, but in the book, I encourage you to reach out to me if you want additional support. And that's my real opportunity to pay it forward. Please take that very seriously. Get the book and keep me included in your journey if you need to, because I am here for anybody who goes through those struggles. I struggled for 50 some years, and it pains me to think that anybody waits that long. It really does.
I hear you. And that's why I do the Plant-Based Academy. We're both on the same path, and,
Yes.
helping people is, I think, one of the best things that you can do in this world,
Yes, I agree. I really agree.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here today.
What a pleasure, Jean. It really was. And I would look forward to an opportunity to reach out and touch base with you again.
Thank you.